Good evening, everybody. You know, I've been holding on to that one since yesterday. Welcome, everybody. I'm Natalie. This is Scientology Life After a Cult, where I recap Scientology news in the morning. And later on in the day or the evening, I do interviews with people in this community who are out protesting, live streaming. And it is one of my favorite things to do. Welcome. Welcome to everybody in the chat. Great to see you here. Hello, hello. If you are new to the channel, or if you need to check your subscribe button, check it. Hit the subscribe button. Love it if you hit the like button as well on your way in, because that'll help with notifications. Or so I'm told. If you have a question this evening, if you could put question in all caps and have your question follow, that'll help us keep track of them, because we want to get to as many questions as we can. I know I have many questions, but I'm sure you guys have many questions too, because we are going to interview tonight somebody who I know that I have become a huge fan of and have tons of respect for what he does, the education that he has brought to this. We're going to talk to Scientology Audit Streets LA William Gude and talk about all kinds of stuff. So bring your questions. And like I said, we'll get to as many of those as we can. It's great to see all of you here. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome to the main stage William Gude. Hip, hip, hooray!
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm glad that you made it over here. I've been wanting to talk to you for a long time.
Yeah, it was a shame that we weren't able to make it yesterday, but something came up that had to be addressed.
Well, I'm so glad that it did. I almost died when I was watching that. I was just, oh my gosh. So let's kind of start there since we're talking about it.
Sure.
And for those who don't know, if you did not see it and we recapped it this morning, well, you tell people. You showed up at the Chiefs thing.
Yeah, listen, I've had a long history with Chief Michael Moore. I had planned on giving him a farewell, little message on Tuesday or Wednesday when they were doing a celebration at the City Hall, but I was not able to make it in time. So I was a little depressed about that. I was like, I'm not going to get a chance to say my goodbye to him. And then
Yeah.
I got word that he would be at City Hall or at LAPD headquarters getting his final send-off. And I knew I had enough time to make it over there, and I knew it was going to be good. I knew it was going to be good. I was not going to let them stop me. I figured they were going to try to put up some resistance to get me from going over there, but I wasn't going to let them stop me.
I was amazed that right when you got there, there were a couple of police officers that were trying to stop you from going, and you're like, you can't stop me. You know, I'm a journalist. You got to let me through. It doesn't cease to amaze me how they back down from you.
Yeah, listen, first off, I have policy on my side. I've been through this with the chief.
Mhm.
So the chief has always treated me, for his own personal reasons, as a journalist. Generally, when I confront the chief or if anything I do, he goes and complains to the LA Press Club and says, look, or to just reporters in general, say, look at William, look what he's doing. He's hurting journalism. He's hurting your reporting. And so if he's going to treat me as a journalist, then you have to give me the same access as the
That's
other
true.
journalists. And there was no reason for them to stop me from going over there. They asked me for a press pass, but you don't need a press pass. LAPD policy says you only need to self-identify as press. You know who put that in place? Chief Moore 2 years ago. So we're gonna ride with that.
Wow. So you get in there, you go, I'm watching the video and I'm like, wow, what is he doing there? Oh, it's the Chiefs thing. Oh, he's coming down and it's all dignified. And I think it looked like you were there by yourself.
Yeah.
And people are all around. There's all these people and the applause gets louder as he gets near. And then you just start in on this man.
Yeah. Well, listen, I went there to tell the truth about him. Okay.
Yeah. And you did. I love it.
Well, yeah, listen, I've watched for the last week. They've been holding all these ceremonies, all these
Mhm.
dignified celebrations for him. When the fact remains, he had planned on staying on for a couple more years. The only reason he is leaving is because 2 months ago, he was caught launching an illegal investigation into the mayor, not using regular police resources. He was using internal affairs. It's not their job to investigate civilians, but
Yeah.
it was being done. It wasn't officially launched. He was just asking investigators to just look into her. That's wrong. That's illegal. He got caught, And so the mayor asked for his resignation and allowed him to resign with dignity. And I wasn't going to let him walk out. Listen, if she's not going to hold him accountable, I will. And
Yeah.
so, I want to make sure that history sets the record straight. Okay. Every journalist out there who was smiling at him heard what I was saying, and they know it's true. So we had to set the record straight. I mean, his literal last moments as chief were spent listening to my mouth. Works for
I
me.
love that. It just was so perfect. And I was thinking at the same time, the mayor, I mean, she's got to be watching this too and being like, yeah. I mean,
No, she runs from me. Listen, I don't just do this to the LAPD. If I know of any politician, if they're going to be in town, if they're going to be in my area, or if I just know their location, I'm
Yeah.
going to do everything I can to get them. I don't care who they are,
Mhm.
because all of them have lied or have done things that they could have done better. I'm going to confront them. If
Yeah.
they want to engage, they can engage. Usually
Yeah.
they try to run. If they're going to run, I'm going to scream.
It was so perfect. It was just so perfect. And I love that you called him out. And like you said, those are the last words that he heard
Oh,
before
yeah.
his send off is just so poetic and beautiful. And then you go around and then you stuck around for a while more to let the other police officers know that it was time to get back to work.
Well, listen, I have beef. A lot of people I saw out there were members of the LAPD commission and the higher brass. These are people who have covered up all this misconduct for years. And to see them just standing around making, and these people are all making $250,000, $350,000 a year. And to just see them standing around doing nothing, and to see hundreds of cops sitting around doing nothing, knowing they're making that much money while they're complaining that there aren't enough police officers out there.
Yeah.
It's frustrating. So listen, if I see 100 cops standing around, it's a good chance you're gonna hear my mouth.
It was perfect. It was perfect. Now, I think a lot of people by now know kind of like what got you started with, you filmed The Police was your original channel, and then you had an
Yeah.
interaction with Scientology
Mhm.
and realized that, this is not going to go well. And the fact that they went at you and misrepresented what happened to your son
Wow.
was, I think this is going to go down in history as one of the stupidest things that Scientology has ever done. And they've done a lot of dumb stuff.
That's why those are like the exact words my mother says. She's
Really.
like, yeah, she says two things. If they didn't just have that initial interaction, if they just said sorry,
Hmm.
or, bringing my son into it, if they hadn't done that, it would have been a different ball game. But those two things, I will never let it go now. Never,
Yeah.
never. Listen, I've always known the Church of Scientology has been a really messed up religion, organization, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I know there are a lot of organizations that are messed up. I don't go and fight against all of them because I only have but so much capacity and bandwidth to do this stuff.
Hmm.
I need some skin in the game. I've watched all the documentaries on Scientology that came out in the later portions of the 2010s, like 2015 on. And so I knew it was an abusive religion. I just
Hmm.
didn't have any connection that made it personal for me to get involved with that fight until the guy told me to suck his something, and then it became personal. And that's all I needed. Then, like I said, I'm very petty, and it just went from there. I knew I couldn't do it at the time. I couldn't fight full time against them at the time. I knew I had other projects I was working on. It happened April 30th of last year, and I knew I had to
Wow.
put April 30th is when it all started. I knew that I couldn't dedicate much time to this until August. Not that I wasn't messing with them. I went over to that building on Ivar and filmed the buses and watched them circle around the block running from me, stuff like that, and would
Yeah.
mess with Sebastian every day. But then it got personal. They should have done that.
Yeah. Definitely. I just often wonder, like, what do they think? I mean, because even sometimes there's like with Scientology where they'll know what they're doing. Like they will intentionally do something and they know, like, how do you not know, like what they did with you? It's very intentional. And to not think that that's going to result, they just keep doing the same thing, thinking that something else is going to happen and it doesn't. It's a definition of insanity.
Yeah.
And they completely, they talk about how with Scientology that if you're the Scientologist and something bad happens to you, you pulled it in, you did something to pull it in. But if it's something good, then they are all responsible for it. If it's something fabulous in your life. Yet they never stop and look and go, why do we have so many enemies? They think it's because they're expanding. That's what L. Ron Hubbard told them, and they believe that.
Do you still think they believe that to this day? I would imagine that we've caused, or at least in the Hollywood area, I think we've caused enough disruption that they have to, in the back of their minds, question if people really do love them like they think, because they've been out on Hollywood Boulevard and they see the crowds are behind us and they're laughing at the Scientologists, and the crowds were getting larger and larger until they eventually closed the doors. So do you think that's still the case? Do you think there still is, I don't know, stridently believing that everybody loves them? Because I wonder about that now.
I think they look at people, they look down a lot at people who aren't in Scientology, and the people who are protesting and live streaming, and even the new people they're trying to get into Scientology, they look down on, especially upper management. It's almost like they don't care about what those people and what they think, because L. Ron Hubbard said, you're there to make the able more able. So they're in their mind, it's just the opinion of the peons or the people who aren't able enough in their eyes don't matter, but they do believe their own BS because they have to. There's the occasional staff member or Sea Org member who looks at it and it's like, oh my gosh, why the lower down, the ones who are more like at the testing center or at the different what are called class 5 organizations in Scientology that they do all the day-to-day stuff, the ones all over like in Chicago and all that, they can have televisions, so they're more exposed to the world. They have to go out and shop at a grocery store. Sea Org members don't do that, very little. And so I know, because I remember when I was in the Sea Org, I thought the neighbors loved us. I was there in the blue buildings. And some did because of the security it provided, but a lot did not. You're just not exposed to that. And you're so indoctrinated to tune it out and believe, like the leaked email that Jessica released, when the squirrels are howling, that means we are winning. Those are L. Ron Hubbard's words. So yeah, they believe it. They think that you're psychotic, what they would call a degraded being. They have to invalidate the people who are calling them out on the truth.
I received an email. I guess it was, I never told anybody about this, but I guess it was a psychological evaluation that they had done on me. And essentially they were saying that the only reason I am fighting them is because I'm distraught about my son's death and I have to have some sort of activism in my life because of that. And so because of that, I'm going after them, and it's misguided. I've been an activist long before my son died. So it's just weird they didn't even get basic facts like that right. It's almost like they're going to do a psychological evaluation, but we're not going to actually look at the facts. We're going to make up facts as we go along. Even though this was meant to be internal, you'd think they'd want to be as honest as possible so they can get an honest assessment to learn how to fight back. But even on that, they had to make stuff up.
Oh, they totally do. Did you say you got that as an email?
Somebody sent it to me, yeah.
From Scientology? This was their analysis of you and why you're doing this.
Yeah.
So they think that you're misguided, and I mean, it also sounds like what they're telling their parishioners, actually. That sounds like something they would tell the people.
That's what I think that it was meant as.
Yeah.
I think it was meant sort of like, I guess, OSA or whatever sent out some stuff and it got to some, like the Betsy types.
Yeah.
Who Jessica had received their emails.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. No, that's totally sounds like something that they would say to people in Scientology so they understand that,
Well, he also said on there to bring up my son's death because it will be a triggering moment for me. And so I believe that this was an assessment that they had made prior to Angel, the security guard, bringing up
Yes.
my son. And
Yeah.
so, listen, when he was coming at me with my son, I knew exactly what he was trying to do. I knew they were trying to get me to make contact with him so they get a restraining order, and I wouldn't be able to come around the test center. But it wasn't going to work. I figured out what they were up to.
Yeah, you did, and you called it, and it's so great. That's one of the things that have blown my mind the most is here you have an organization in Scientology where they train you from childhood to do these training routines so that you keep your cool under difficult situations, yet they lose their stuff faster. It's just so much anger and all of that. And
Mm-hmm.
when they've come at you with these, pushing these buttons that they think they have, but you've been able to see right through it from the beginning when they did that. Because what they did is exactly what they do. They try to come up with a narrative of what they think your buttons are going to be and push them. I mean, you might have heard by now the story about Paulette Cooper back in the day where it was called Operation Freakout. They had an entire operation to make her think she was crazy
Mm-hmm.
just to
I
get,
mean, listen, I'm used to going up to cops trying to push my buttons to try to get me to make a mistake so they can arrest me. So
yeah,
I'm very careful with these things. So while they're, and again, I didn't think they were very good at what they were doing. If they're going to play some sort of like psychological game, it was some basic stuff. They're using old tactics. Listen, my plan when fighting them, I still had a plan in place on how to take on the church and end it. But along the way, you have to be nimble enough to come up with new ideas and react to the situation on hand. They don't know how to do that. They keep
yeah.
on, it seems like they're just relying on the same old playbook over and over again. It's not going to work.
Yeah,
It's
that
so
is
outdated.
exactly it. Yeah, that's exactly it because they have to follow what L. Ron Hubbard said no matter what. So you can
Uh,
pretty much predict what they're going to do to a degree. They change up some of the
yeah.
details, but they're going to do it in the same way that they used it as propaganda. I guarantee you they are fundraising and using you as the reason, their narrative and version of you saying that we need to all contribute to the war chest in their confidential briefings that they like to do.
All right. If I would love to get my hands on that if that's the case. I will just talk about that nonstop. That will just blow up my head. My mother will make fun of me. She's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
you're really full of yourself now, aren't you?"
You're raising money for Scientology, but it's what they do. They have the International Association of Scientologists that keeps what they call the war chest to battle psychiatry, to battle big pharma. So they have these confidential briefings with Scientologists who have money and make them feel real special. Like, this is a confidential briefing that we're giving you, which I always say is code for get your wallet ready, because that's what that
Oh,
means. Confidential briefing, and they make it sound like, well, and they do, they only tell certain people. That's why you'll notice a different reaction sometimes at different orgs. Like Chris was at a Hellcat yesterday. I think he was in Burbank and he spoke to a Scientology, I think staff member or auditor, this guy named Joe, who had a whole conversation, tried to get him to go in there and watch the videos, wasn't freaked out by the camera. This guy just had no clue about what's been going on. They
oh.
don't tell everyone what's going on.
Wow. I would assume they would have been warned, but if that's a mistake,
Yeah.
listen.
Only certain people, they tell certain people, whether he was on staff or not, I don't know for sure. He could be a public person that's an auditor, but he was 50 years in Scientology.
Hmm.
But they don't tell everyone. In fact, when my daughter, she was training in Florida at the Flag Land Base to work at Scientology in the Twin Cities where I live. And she told me that when they were there, that if there were protesters, that they were told they all had to stay inside because they were violent.
I mean, that's what they keep on calling. They constantly refer to me as violent,
Yep.
and I'm not. I got to tell you something. I'm loud. I'm very loud, but I'm not a violent person.
Yeah. They're totally telling people you're violent. They have
Oh,
a whole narrative. You're violent and apparently you're abusive to dogs.
oh,
You make them
not the
go out in
abusive
the
dog.
rain.
God forbid you have a European dog go out into the rain in 65, 68 degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all very silly,
Yeah,
and
it is. It is.
yeah. Like I think those posters they're putting up about my dog are so silly. I told people don't take them down, leave them up. They're kind of comical.
Yeah, they are. They
Yeah.
are. They might be worth something someday. What about the restraining orders? You got like a couple of restraining orders going now, temporary
Yeah,
ones.
I have one temporary one. I can't talk much about it. I can say that it's for elder abuse
Hmm.
by a counter protester. So, we're the protester, somebody who is trying to stop our efforts of exercising our First Amendment right of freedom of speech and freedom of assembly, took out a temporary restraining order against me, claiming
Hmm.
elder abuse. And we are in the process of not just working to get that thrown out, but we brought on a new lawyer yesterday who is the best anti-SLAPP lawyer to me in the country.
Nice.
Somebody I've looked up to for a while. And essentially, anti-SLAPP is when somebody tries to take a frivolous lawsuit or a baseless lawsuit, TRO, against you to stop you from expressing your First Amendment rights. We can have it struck down, thrown out, and then this person will then be responsible for my lawyer's fees, which at this point right now are about $15,000 to $20,000 so far.
Wow. Wow.
Um, so that's the first one. Um, I can't talk much about it. I'll just say that my lawyer is savage.
Mm,
I was just reading her emails earlier, and it was amazing.
love it.
Then we have La Poubelle's owner tried to get a temporary restraining order against myself and against DOA.
Oh, I didn't know she tried against DOA
Oh
too.
yeah, oh yeah. She was denied a temporary restraining order. Now, listen, you can get anything. You can get a temporary restraining order with ease. It doesn't take much.
Yeah.
You essentially just have to say that you feel at risk, or your life is threatened, somebody is threatening to harm you, something of that nature. She was unable to show that in court, so they denied the TRO. But when you look in the county records, there's a pending restraining order with a court dated mid-March between Francois against me and Francois against DOA. Well, obviously, if you couldn't get the TRO, they're not going to get the restraining order. And this will absolutely be anti-SLAPP. She's going to have to pay all my lawyer's fees for this.
Wow. That's so great.
To the point where I don't even know if she's going to serve us. Because if she serves us, then we have to go to court. If she doesn't serve us, then we don't have to, we haven't been served. Let's see if she serves us. She took them out like 4 days ago. I didn't want to go to La Poubelle last night. I went up there solely to let them to check in and say, here I am. Are you going to serve me or not? Here I am. I don't want them thinking that the only reason I took the night off is because I was worried about being served. Please, I can't wait to be served. I want to look at those documents. I want to read her rationale. I want to post those online to show everybody the rationale. Since there isn't a temporary restraining order, I can show those documents.
Mhm.
And, listen, let's fight it out on his merits, and then you're going to pay my lawyer's fees.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the best part.
Can she afford them? If I win an anti-SLAPP and they have to pay my lawyer's fees, I will take out a lien against their credit card processing or anything against their restaurant to get my fees recouped. So think long and hard about these frivolous lawsuits, not just for her. I believe there's listen, I have been saying for months, that they are eventually going to take out a slew of restraining orders against me.
Yeah.
I've been predicting it. I thought it was going to be a charge of Scientology, but here we are. I've been through temporary restraining orders so many times before. Everybody who I get in an argument with likes to try to take out a temporary restraining order. I haven't lost any of these yet. I win every time. A lot of times they drop them. They don't even want to show up at court. So
Wow.
let's see how it plays out.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd like to see that too. I didn't know there was one against DOA as well.
Yeah, it's pending. So they haven't received it. They didn't get the TRO, but he has a court date against Francois the same day as I have it. So
Wow.
let's see how that goes.
I've also really enjoyed watching the community, build, and people building different relationships and having each other's back and being educated about what their rights are when it comes to the police. It's even I've started looking at it differently. Like when I see a cop, usually I'm like, okay, drive straight. What am I doing? And now I'm like, F you. Only
Please don't start following them around and trying to pull them over like I do.
No, I wouldn't. But my viewpoint has changed about it because it's more from the point of view of that we do have rights as citizens, and that when they are, if they are being completely unprofessional, and they're different in every area, it seems like, in every city, in every town, and there's law enforcement that's just excellent and wonderful, and then there's ones that aren't, just like any place, any position anywhere. But that piece of helping, especially these kids, and I say kids because I'm old enough to be most of their mothers,
Mhm.
what they're doing and the education that's going with it, that they're learning. They don't teach you this in school. I mean,
No.
at what point do you learn what I feel like it's been this missing piece for decades, maybe during the civil rights movement. And at other times, people were being more educated on what their rights were, especially as it relates to law enforcement. And that's been a real eye opener for me. And I think it's been an eye opener for many people who follow.
Yeah, so listen, in my cop watching efforts, right, I have a small team around me of, people I wouldn't even mention their names because this is just higher level stuff than with the Scientology. This is big time serious stuff.
Mhm.
We take on the highest of levels in the LAPD. We take on the LAPD union, and these people are really, really skilled at what they do.
Mhm.
We all agree, like, I've had to take time away from some of the stuff I'm doing on the side with my cop watching just because you can't just live stream for 2, 3 hours a night. And then when I already had a packed schedule, it's got to
Mhm.
take away from something. So they understand that for the last couple months, I've had to pull back on some of the police stuff I was doing. But we all agree in the long run, it's actually been very helpful
Yeah.
because, listen, I've been talking for years about how the LAPD is a deeply corrupt organization, how they do what they want, how they don't know the laws, how they make up the laws as they go along, how they make up policy as they go along, and then the way the application of the law is inconsistent depending upon who they're dealing with, relationships and such. So in a lot of ways, I hate to say it, it's like we've gone through watching these guys, Cam and Danny and DOA, get falsely arrested,
Mhm.
watching people get attacked like SB Spanglish, like Aaron, and then either not having their attempt to have the person arrested taken seriously, or in Aaron's case, having them punitively take him to the police station and effectively arrest him for 4 hours
Yeah.
on nothing. Um, it's unfortunate, but it's in some ways it's been a boon to my police accountability efforts because people are now seeing stuff that I've been saying for years, the corruption. And honestly, a lot of times it's been happening to young black men and young Latino men,
Mhm.
right? Now you're watching it happen to Aaron, an older white man. You're watching it happen to Cam, a white kid wearing a tuxedo, a
Yeah.
kid who hasn't had a fight since he was 16 years old against his brother.
Yeah.
Watching it happen to Danny, who's there with his wife, who is
Mhm.
the sweetest guy in the world. And honestly, watching it happen to DOA is a guy who, if you're out there on the front lines, it's a guy you want next to you because if somebody attacks you, DOA will have your back in a heartbeat. And he got punished for that. He got punished and sent to jail for 5 days to coming to somebody's defense. So
Mhm.
you're white again. DOA is a white guy. So now we're not just seeing the misconduct against black and Latino young men, but you're watching it happen to white men, younger, older, like I said, wearing tuxedos, a Latino guy with his wife. Um, and yeah, and the corruption is open. Tens of thousands of people are watching this nightly and at home watching it and screaming into their phones or
Yeah.
the computers or the TVs saying, how could this happen? Well, you see it. It happens all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. It does. It is definitely such an eye opener to exactly what you're saying. The A lot of people have said too, they've talked about how like it's so entertaining as well. There are these different characters coming together and these, adventures happening. And it's really interesting to see sometimes people come for the entertainment, right? For the drama, but then they settle in because they start learning about Scientology and they're like, what? And they're getting more educated on it. And then they start jumping in and are like, what can we do? Who do we contact? Who do we call?
Right. Well, listen, that's the key. When I first had that fight on April 30th with the security guard who told me to suck his whatever, and he was acting like he owned the sidewalk. I sat there and like did the calculations in my head. I'm like, can I take this group down? And what would it take? And it really only took like 30 seconds to kind of figure it out. And I was like, okay, got to create a TikTok account. I'll do a bunch of videos that are kind of going to be funny at first, right? Because everybody talks about the Scientologists, but they don't necessarily, everybody's kind of spooked out by them. I'm like, I know how to do this. I know how to put together some good videos on this and bring people along. My initial thing was, I'm going to create these accounts, a TikTok account and a YouTube account.
Yeah.
And then I was going to do it for a month or whatever, get monetized, and then post online showing people exactly how much money I make by doing this. Because I didn't care about the money. I just didn't care about it. I was to do it to try to encourage other, say, First Amendment auditors and TikTokers to say, hey, this is good content over here.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than doing First Amendment audits of post offices and businesses that kind of piss people off, go do it to Scientologists, because nobody likes them. They're going to be on your side. They're going to take your side. And, listen, I didn't make a big deal about how much money you can make, because Scientologists started saying, oh, they're only doing it for the money.
Yeah.
I will say this, 90% of the people who are out there are not monetized. They're out there because this is what they want to do. They're out there, they're traveling from San Jose and San Francisco and San Diego. They're traveling from New Jersey to come out and do this with us. They're doing it out of principle, not doing it for the money. But yeah, I recognize it had to be about entertainment at first, just to kind of draw people in. That's why TikTok was so valuable at first, because you can do those 30-second clips of, talking about Sebastian's corset, or, Lurch being 6'11", 110 pounds, things like that. It was just funny. But at a certain point, if you want to actually get somewhere with the movement, it has to be about substance. TikTok was not good for that. I mean, TikTok was good for the lives, I guess, but that's why I felt like YouTube was so essential. You can do long form stuff and showing people. You can't explain the corruption involving the LAPD's relationship with the Scientologists in a 30-second clip on TikTok.
Yeah.
It takes hours and hours and hours of lives and videos to get there.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. And it's so neat. It's been so interesting for me as somebody who comes from 35 years in Scientology to see so many people learning the terminology and using it correctly and calling them out on it. Because as someone who was on the receiving end when I was in Scientology, when I was starting to leave, is when the whole anonymous thing was going on. It's using that terminology and stuff. It's because they're trigger words. So you're like, what did they say? And it just sticks more. And I love that that's been embraced as well. And it's been so funny on this end, even more so.
It's funny on our end too. We have a good time out there.
Just like, hearing Confident Chris tell a security guard, don't 2D flow me, man. There's no way that guy didn't laugh later. I mean, maybe he didn't actually, but I mean, that's just funny. I would have thought that was hilarious. But I also wasn't a very good Scientologist and got in trouble a lot for exactly that kind of stuff, laughing about it.
Like I said, we had a good time, especially at the test center.
Yeah.
We had it became just like one big party, a big happy party. Everybody was having a fun time. Cars just constantly driving by, screaming, it's a cult. And then, you'd see a lot of, like I said, you'd see people bringing their kids out there, young kids out there. And just to stand there and kind of watch the show. I always said it's the best show on Hollywood Boulevard. Why do you want to go to one of those shows? You can watch this for free.
Yeah, it really is. And I love how you all too just are such a great support of the local businesses around there.
Yes.
It's so the opposite of what, the narrative that Scientology wants to paint about people who are protesting, and you just do the opposite.
Listen, the small businesses and vendors on Hollywood Boulevard, when I walk down there every day, they give me a slap on the hand and they talk about how they miss us. They miss us.
Wow.
We have brought them so much money. The tour vans over there, they always tell me, if you have friends and family, they come to town, or even if they're in town, or they live here, free tours on us anytime. We took good care of those businesses. I thought it was important. You want to know something? Those Sea Org members, are they coming outside and buying any food from the food truck? Are they taking any tour vans? So they're not actually spending money on those businesses that surround them. So we flooded them with business, and so they're all on our side.
Yeah.
They're on our side. And I think it's important. I always said that's important to bring them along and to show, listen, we're showing a video and the business right next to them is like giving us hand slaps. I think that's it's a powerful message to show.
Yeah. It says everything. It says a lot. And having to like when you guys were out at the test center and they had that video playing, The Way to Happiness with all the precepts, that was like for me, watching the reaction of people walking by or the people who are protesting and what you were saying about it. It's because I was so used to hearing it, after 35, all that time, even though when I really stopped to watch the video, I was like, that's weird. It looks weird. But some of these things kind of had to be pointed out, like seeing it through the eyes of people never in Scientology for me is my favorite thing. It's amazing. It's like putting on maybe it's taking off the VR goggles, right? It's like I've been seeing it through this lens, even though I've been out of Scientology for 13 years. Some things I still really wasn't seeing it for what it was and hearing it. And that's why I've been loving being on YouTube, because there's not a day that goes by that I don't go, oh my God, it really was a cult. It is a cult. Like I said, it was a cult when I left, but I didn't really feel it. I just thought it was an alternative lifestyle. And now I'm like, holy crap. Every day I wake up and go, I spent 35 years in a cult.
Well, it's interesting that you should say that because that lady Betsy, she said in the email, we are going to play our movie. They thought that they were going to run us out of there by
Yeah.
using specific tactics. They were going to put on a movie. They were going to wear their white shirts with the Road to Happiness shirts or whatever. And
Yeah.
they were going to come out there and smile in front of our cameras and win people over who are watching us. And
Yeah.
I was just thinking, first off, if you come out there with your white shirts trying to sell the road to happiness, whatever, we're going to devour you.
Yeah.
And that movie is that honestly, it's so strange. It was
Yeah.
like the stock image and the message. I used to ask people who were walking by, I'd be like, try to get them to stop to watch it and just to find out what their reaction is. One thing I noticed is people who were walking by, no one stopped to watch it. The only people who stopped to watch it were the protesters. And I encourage people to watch that movie, quite honestly. I think that's actually helpful to us.
Yeah.
I think it's so wild and crazy. Sure. They were also saying, when we were out there, go to Scientology.tv. They were constantly saying that. I encourage people to go to Scientology.tv. There's nothing on there that's going to be helpful for their cause. So yes, please go to Scientology.tv.
No, they don't. And that is also part of the propaganda that Scientologists are told. Scientology TV just exists to keep the propaganda machine going. They're just making their own content, mostly for their members to go, oh,
Yeah.
look, we're so big, we're so large, we're so accepted. We have our own channel.
Whereas, one account on TikTok or YouTube is probably getting a larger reach per day than that whole station or
Yeah.
that whole, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm gonna grab a couple of these questions.
Sure.
We got a couple. Davina, thank you so much. She says, I'm a good girl in Scotland.
My mother's saying, you're really full of yourself right now.
Shayla says, Streets, you make us all feel safe. God bless you, young man.
I'm 49 years old. I'm not a young man. I appreciate it.
Casey Cat, thank you so much. It would be great if Streets LA and all of the squirrels could put the word out for people to sub to Natalie so she hits 20,000 is a straight up and vertical for LRH Day. Please spread the word.
Absolutely. We're going to make a thing of it.
I love it because, I've been saying this on my channel. Scientologists play the birthday game for L. Ron Hubbard to give him expansion for his birthday. It's about getting your statistics straight up and vertical is what they call it, which you know what? You should have people yell that at them. Are your stats straight up and vertical?
Oh, well, I have a new one to use now.
Yes. And I know how much it actually counts against the statistics of the Office of Special Affairs. Every minute of negative press, every inch of negative press. So the more that's why I decided we're going to play the birthday game. And I wanted to get to 20,000 subscribers by L. Ron Hubbard's birthday as my gift.
We're going to get there.
Yeah.
What is it, March 20th or March 12th?
March 13th. March
Oh,
13th.
March 13th.
March 13th.
We're
Yeah.
going to get there.
March 13th. I'm like, because I know how much they're going to hate it, how much they hate it. They hate it
Okay.
so much when there's expansion on the outside with us
Yeah.
SPs.
You'll have more subscribers or close to as many subscribers as they have members, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. They're, it's generous to say they have 20 to 40,000. And
Right.
ultimately, I'm going to feel like I'm going to have to throw a party when we get over 40, because then you really know, like, there's more
Yeah.
subscribers than, I mean, you already have more subscribers than there are Scientologists for sure.
I have more subscribers on my robot channel than there are Scientologists.
Yeah, that's true. Angelina, thank you. Thank you for your robot videos. They are so fun to watch. I'm a good girl too. Oh, that's so hilarious. Your mom's going to love that. Blackmail, thank you. Blackmail's asking, how old is Gizmo? Do you love boxer dogs? Gizmo fan.
He's so it's hard to say how old he is because he was a rescue. Um, Between 5 and 6. This is my first boxer. I generally like big dogs. My last dogs were a bloodhound and a Neapolitan Mastiff, but I love all dogs.
Yeah.
Don't get me started about cats though. I don't even want
Mm.
to get it. I like cats.
Allergic. I'm allergic, so I'm not a big cat fan.
Don't say you're not a cat fan. You have no idea. The people will come after you harder than Osa. You have no idea. Don't
Because the allergies, the allergies. I like a good looking kitten, but I can't get near them, or I can't breathe. If I could breathe around them, I'd probably like them. But when I see them, for me, it's like, I gotta run. Casey Cat, thank you. Hellcat found another Scientology front group yesterday that offers tutoring based on the works of LRH, that offers math, reading, and ESL, access to children and non-English speaking families, especially Latinos. That's the Applied Scholastics, which is totally a Scientology front group.
Yeah, they have an applied scholastic. The building on Ivar, the one where we always have the buses and stuff, with the L. Ron Hubbard Museum downstairs, and across the street from there, they have an applied scholastics building, and it's always freaked me out because it's like, okay, you're going to tutor somebody about on math based upon the teachings of L. Ron Hubbard. I'm thinking math is math. You don't have to recreate math. I mean, I understand you're talking about like tactics at learning and stuff. Come on, we all know where that's going. I think I'm insulted by it being out there on Hollywood Boulevard. With that having been said, I've been seeing that place for 10 years. I've never seen anybody in there. I've just
That's
never seen anyone in there.
that is really interesting. Queen Thetan, thank you. I need a Good Girl hoodie. Please make it happen. Oh, yeah. I got a lot of comments to ask you about this. Are you going to be doing Good Girl merch on
Yeah,
your
so somebody made me a Goodfellas sweatshirt that was really cool, and they do a
Okay.
printing and stuff. So I was going to reach out to them and do it. It's just I get so far behind, and stuff like this is what gives me anxiety. Yelling at cops doesn't give me anxiety, but like trying to meet deadlines and take care of stuff like this, I'm a procrastinator on.
No, I love it. I had told people, I'm like, well, if he doesn't make it, I'm making it and putting it in my merch store, because people on my channel want it. They keep asking for it. So I give
I
you 2 weeks.
want to see if my mom buys one. She better.
Oh, it'd be so great to meet your mom. What you tell me a little bit about that. Like, what is this like for your mom? I mean, what, just the cop watching stuff alone, but now you're taking on Scientology, and it's Scientology and the LAPD, which people are coming to learn are in bed together.
I always tell the same sort of joke, and it's not far off. I will go. I've had nights where I've called her at 2:30 in the morning. I'm like, here, stay on the phone with me. These cops are following me. I had a big fight with them. They're getting really aggressive. Just stay on the phone with me till I get home. And she's like, oh, okay. Well, I made some kombucha today and it was so good. And I'm like, oh God. None of this. I've asked her, Mom, are you at all concerned about me, about my safety? Do you think my safety is safe? And she's not the least bit concerned, not one bit. She just laughs. She thinks it's funny. She's just I think she's just used to me just always being in a fight.
Yeah.
That yeah.
Just always standing up.
Yeah.
Danny, thank you. 22 hours left. Scientology is a cult. I don't get
It
the
is.
reference to the 22 hours. 22
I
hours.
don't know.
Oh, that's Danny.
That's
22
me.
hours left. Scientology is a cult. Danny,
Chicago.
oh, maybe. Yeah, that's
Chicago.
right. Oh,
Danny's on his way to Chicago right now. Danny's
Danny.
literally on his way.
That's
He's probably
awesome.
getting some gas.
That's nice. So Danny and Leah going to Chicago. Oh, that's going to be fun to watch. Oh, that's going to be great.
And Leah is a real sweetheart. She stood out there basically the whole night while Danny was in jail.
That was amazing. That moment when Danny came out and they reunited, and that was beautiful. But when you and Danny reunited, there was just something that just.
Well, I was shocked. Listen, I went in there. I talked to her. I talked to Leah first, and she had been through it. And I was going in there to visit him, and they have a really good story about a ring pop. I'll let them tell that. And I could see he was kind of he'd been through it. He was tired and stuff. And I walked out and then talked to Leah for a second. I went in to go see Cam. Talked to Cam, and as I'm walking out, I see Leah, and I'm like, wow, she's talking to somebody that looks like Danny. It looks just like him. And I was not expecting him to be out there. I just got finished talking to him. To see him release, and especially on a Saturday, they don't just kind of do that stuff.
Yeah.
I believe it was because NBC News reached out to LAPD, asked them some questions, and they're like, let's get these two guys out of here as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
That's what I think it was. But yeah, it was amazing to see them. What was amazing, right, is the fact that the way people come together. Like Cam had his phone broken, so people donated to Leah and them. And listen, they donated for DOA when he came out, and Josiah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's
love it.
just so beautiful. I love that. Rabbit, thank you. William, you were younger than my kid. So proud of you, kid.
Oh God.
Jazz J, thank you. Does Streets know Inglewood designated March 13th to L. Ron Hubbard? Stop. The
No,
city of Inglewood? When? What year?
what? They need to pay for that one.
Oh, hell no.
No way. Hell no. Hell no. That
Oh,
can't happen.
wow. They might have done it in the past, but that they're doing that this year would just be shocking. So let us know, Jazz, in the comments. And Nancy,
Unacceptable.
yeah. If you see an answer to that, Nancy, if you could start, and then we'll circle back on that. Fizzy says, big birthday for William on March 5th. I thought your birthday was in August or something.
No, I have a court date on March 5th.
Oh, okay. Big birthday for William on March 5th. All right. Another question. Well, Megan, thank you. Megan saying, I love boxer dogs. Growing up, my grandma had them.
They're sweet dogs. They're good dogs.
Yeah, they are. Blah, blah, blah has a question. William, where can we regular people learn about our rights and how to confidently defend them like you? Like a course we can take. Love what you do.
Yeah. I mean, I think what I need to do is
Write a
I've been
book.
planning on putting together a string of videos explaining your rights. I've done cop watching classes. If you go onto my Film the Police YouTube, I did a cop watching class for Kenneth Mejia, who is now the LA controller. I had done a cop watching class from there. It was probably 90 minutes long. There's a video there where I talk about rights and stuff. But quite honestly, you know what? I guess the only resource you really have is sort of like the ACLU website. It's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, it's not. I think that they can explain things better. I think there's a void out there for stuff like that. I don't think there aren't many resources available for people to learn their rights. So I think I'll step in and put together some websites and some videos on doing just that.
And then eventually, maybe there could be a version for like younger people, like a picture book or something.
Well, you know what it is right. Well, there definitely is a void for this because I've done some classes at USC. I just did a journalism class over there, or spoke at a journalism class, trying to teach reporters about their rights and whatnot. And I spoke at like a pre-law class at USC.
Mhm.
But that's sort of dedicated toward people who are really in this hard. I
Yeah.
think there need to be some resources. Actually, I was asked to speak at a high school coming up. Maybe it'd be good to start doing more engagements like that, talking to younger people. It's sensitive when you start getting too young because they start feeling like, oh, you're indoctrinating people into
Yeah.
hating the cops.
That's
No, I'm just trying to let people know their rights. But
Yeah, exactly. There's a huge difference. It's not about hating the cops. It's about knowing what your rights are. And the fact that that is often positioned with hating the cops because you're finding out what your rights are is a problem. The fact that our young people aren't learning in school or other places, or most of us, what our rights are in that way is a problem. And call me crazy. It sounds very intentional.
well, listen, it's frustrating because here in LA, right, between the LAPD, the Sheriff's Department, and the other incorporated cities in the county of LA, you probably have 40,000 police officers. How many people are part of oversight of those 40,000 police officers? There are none. There are none. We have the LAPD Commission, which is supposed to be the Civilian Oversight Committee, but it's, the most recent person they put on there, who's the president, was ex-police chief of the airport police. He was high up in the FBI. So he's literally a cop.
Mhm.
A cop overseeing cops. It should be just regular people from the community. The
Yeah.
oversight should be with teachers and business owners and homemakers, or whoever else from the community, people who are actually invested in the community. That should be our oversight. So there isn't any oversight out there. And because of that, you end up getting worse. And you actually combine that with the fact that to be an LAPD officer, you don't need any specialized training. All you need is a GED, be 5 foot tall, and 20/40 vision. I'm from New York City originally, where in order to be an NYPD officer, you have to have an associate's degree. And usually, if you're going to have an associate's degree, you're probably going to go for criminal justice. So at least you learn about the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, things that are important. If you ask the average LAPD officer, an officer who's only had to go through 5.5 months of training at the academy, and how much time has been spent on the actual Constitution learning laws? Very little. They're learning about how to use different weapons and the different policies and tactics and so on and so forth. They may get a couple of days on laws. I've talked to college professors. They say it all the time. My students, when they graduate from law school, still cannot cite laws off the top of their head.
Wow.
Yet we're entrusting these people who have limited life skills. Listen, also, if you have an associate's degree, you've been on a college campus. So you've been exposed to different people from different backgrounds and things like that. You're having generally people who are coming from, maybe they come from Sherman Oaks and they've never seen a Latino person or a Black person, and so you don't have those sort of interactions. You don't have that sort of, I don't know, those interpersonal, interactions. And that's what really puts the policing in LA way behind. These officers don't know the laws. They don't know the laws. They don't have any. They're not expected to know the laws. Listen, if you pass the academy, if you get 70% of the questions right, that means you got 30% of the questions wrong. At what point are we going to correct these things? It's kind of important to know the laws and policies and procedures. So yeah, there isn't much oversight out there, and that's why it's important for individuals to know their laws. It's not even just about knowing the laws. It's also about common respect. Officers get off on power trips. Sometimes you just have to put them in their place to let them know what it's like to be bullied. And it's important for people to stand up so they're not taken advantage of, so they're not falsely arrested. A lot of people were around when Aaron was arrested. A lot of people were around when DOA was arrested, and Cam and Danny. So they weren't forgotten. But if there weren't any people around, and there weren't cameras around, and somebody's being arrested and nobody knows about it, well, nobody knows about it. And they just kind of get lost in the system. 6 months later, they're still in there. So all the more reason why people need to know their rights.
Yeah, that's so powerful, right? I mean, it's just people just need to know. I've never been more convinced of that than I am now after watching all of this. Okay, we'll do another question. Robin's Nest. William, will you marry me?
Let's do it.
Get in line, girl.
Let's do it.
Which that was a question earlier that came up that somebody had put in my chat earlier this morning when I was doing a recap. Is it correct that is there a Mrs. Gude?
No, I'm not married.
So are you single and available?
I'm single.
I'm asking for the audience. I've got my Tony. Good to know because they keep asking. Let's see. What is this? Blah, blah, blah. William, there have been a few at La Poupe that said they don't care about the restaurant's connection to, oops. Oh, there you are. There's been a few at La Poupe that don't care about the restaurant's connection to supporting a rapist. Hellcat talked to a guy that said just that. Best way to respond.
I mean, listen, I don't have to respond. If they're going to go in there, they're going to go in there. If they have their mindset on going in there and supporting that place, there's nothing I can say that will stop them. What I
Yeah.
want to do is prevent the next person from going in there. I think personally, I believe in public shaming, right? If you have enough heart to go in there, then maybe putting on a website of just pictures of people who have gone in there after they've been told about the history of this place. Let's put together the website. I already have one, rapeshop.com. And we can just post their pictures on there. And listen, a lot of these people want to be actors and actresses and stuff. Is this going to be a good career choice to go into this restaurant?
Yeah.
You want somebody to look at this website someday and say, oh, wow, look at them in this video saying that rape isn't that big of a deal. And it's funny, like I keep on talking about this. A lot of the comments that we hear out there are not even coming from men. I'm expecting men to be some jerks and say, oh, what's the big deal?
Yeah.
It's been women saying rape happens all the time. I've been shocked by that. I think we've all been shocked by that. And it's been a real eye opener. But again, I think people, if they're going to make statements like that, they should be held accountable publicly. And let's listen. I'm into playing rough stuff to get things done. Let them know. Hey, do your friends and family know what your view is about rape?
Yeah.
It's just you're flippant about it.
Yeah. The flippancy was definitely shocking. Totally.
Yeah.
Indigo Twin, thank you. Know the law, it's your biggest protection, so you can't be falsely accused. Use it to your advantage. Yeah, absolutely. I think we're seeing that play out a lot. Megan, thank you. I love cats. I
Oh,
think
here we go.
because I get them. We have a lot in common. We're both very independent and assholes.
I love cats. I will never talk badly about a cat ever again. I promise you.
You learned the lesson.
Listen, I'll take on Scientology. I'll take on LAPD. I will not take on cat owners.
Jazz J, thank you. 2012 was when Inglewood designated L. Ron Hubbard Day. Okay, so they must have done it. I wonder when the organization there opened.
Is it ongoing? If it was only a one-time thing, then it was a one-time thing. But if they're still doing it, I want answers. I'm going to email some people and confront some people about it to find out if it's a thing and if it's still a thing, if it's ongoing, and it needs to be corrected.
Yeah, I think it's a one-time thing usually, at least when I've seen these before. We even got one done for my grandma when she passed away on the Big Island because she was in the Guinness Book of World Records when she was in her 90s for having the largest collection of novelty sunglasses.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, her name was Betty Webster, 2017, page 96, if you guys want to look it up. But, so when she passed away just a couple of years ago, and my sister got a proclamation, because I was like, hey, let's make it Betty Webster Day all the time. And they're like, no, it doesn't work like that. It's just this one time.
Oh, okay.
So I'm thinking it might be like that. Might be like that. So which just means they're just going to keep trying again and again. Let's see. Libby's asking, do you ever worry that maybe one of the inexperienced squirrels will get into a cult of Scientology trap? I've heard you call them back a few times. Much love.
What do you mean, cult of Scientology trap? Does that mean that
So
they
like,
may join the Church of Scientology,
no,
or
I
that they'll
fall for some bull baiting, fall for the button pushing, take the
yeah,
bait,
no,
debate.
that's a concern of mine. That's why I generally try to make sure I'm there at least every night for a certain period of time.
Yeah.
I'm less worried about that now. Before, yes, only because at the test center, the individual Sea Org members, I was just always worried that they may touch them by accident, something like that. But not that much. I
Yeah.
think that people kind of know the rules, know the ropes enough, seasoned at this that
Yeah.
no.
And I've heard them telling each other too. I've heard them educating newer people in there too. What did you hear about you must with Solomon yesterday, what he was saying about was it a private security guard or he thought it was a PI from La Poubelle who who told him that he knew where he was like that day at 11 o'clock in the morning at Best Buy?
Yeah, he did that for a reason. He did it to try to freak him out and scare him off.
Yeah.
Maybe they followed him. Maybe they just happened to bump into him and saw him, or somebody mentioned it or whatever, and they're going to use it, but as a tool to try to scare him off. You're not going to scare Solomon off, and you're not going to scare. Listen, nobody's going to be scared off at this point. They've arrested these people falsely, and
Yeah.
listen, I have a couple of people who said maybe I just want to take a step back. Sure, and you have every right to do that.
Yeah.
But these sort of tactics constantly backfire. It's actually just going to bring more attention to
Yeah.
bring more people there. People are unafraid at this point. There was a time when people were scared of Church of Scientology. Then a bunch of kids came out there and brought them down by laughing at them. They're not scared anymore.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with that wholeheartedly. Diane, the canning nana. Hey, so this is Diane who leaked the emails from Betsy. Streets LA, I received the emails from Betsy, lots more that I haven't released yet. Diane's going to come on the channel again and we're going to talk about these emails.
Ooh, I can't wait. Can't wait.
She came on my channel 2 times and they were still calling her, trying to get her to go to the org.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
because often in Scientology, one hand doesn't know what the other one is doing.
oh,
So they don't have every day. In fact, often they'll use, they'll hire lawyers who will hire lawyers who will hire PIs. There's always this separation there, and they're not going to tell the everyday staff members what's happening if they're looking into or investigating somebody. It
ah,
becomes very need to know because otherwise it gets leaked.
ah.
Gets leaked
And
any.
it gets leaked and then end up on a YouTube
Mhm.
live.
And usually it gets leaked because of their own incompetence, which is what's really, really hilarious. Fluffer Squirrel UK, good girls stick together and subscribe to Natalie. I love that.
Definitely do that.
Oh, thank you. Marlene has a question. How did it come to be that Serpico reached out to you? P.S. I'm a good girl.
Oh, Serpico, that was probably 3 years ago. Just he just reached out and said if I ever need any help with anything or whatever. I'll be honest with you, I'm terrible with stuff, so I don't even get back to him. So I'm probably just the biggest jerk in the world. I'm just terrible with getting back to people. You know. Um,
Yeah, to hunt you down.
yeah, no, I've been offered a lot of over the years with my cop watching stuff. Like my big battles with the LAPD were 2020, 2021, 2022 mostly. And then I'll be honest, in a lot of ways, they got a lot better. They sort of, they told me I won, and I felt like I won. Policing in Hollywood, aside from what's happened with the Scientology stuff, policing in Hollywood is way different than it used to be. When I used to go to Hollywood Boulevard, I used to look up and down that street, and there'd be four stops happening at once. All people just handcuffed all over the place,
Oh,
usually for not using a right turn signal or not coming to a full stop at a stop sign, something of that nature. And next thing you know, it would just turn to handcuffing and searching. That sort of policing doesn't happen anymore in Hollywood. You can't just walk down Hollywood Boulevard and see stops happening. In fact, they're sort of rare.
yeah.
You see them on the side streets, but so policing. Listen, there was also in the HED area where the test center is along Hollywood Boulevard. There used to be 70 cops. It was essentially a task force that handled that area. 70 of them. By the end of 2021, I got that knocked down from 70 down to 23 cops. At
Wow.
the same time, crime in the area, if you look at it, has gone down. My contention has always been that, I think there is a correlation. I think people used to see all the police stops happening on Hollywood Boulevard, and they would see, all the cops all over the place, people handcuffed, and they'd say, wow, this place is unsafe. I don't want to bring my family here. When they stopped doing those sort of pretextual stops, families felt comfortable coming back because they didn't see people handcuffed everywhere. They didn't feel like it's just criminals around.
Yeah.
And so what happens is when you are handcuffing them, you're running the families off. The only people that are on Hollywood Boulevard at that point are just people with like the criminal element. But when you stop scaring off families, the families flood in. The families have flood in, tourists have flood in, and it sort of pushes the criminal element out. And so it actually, to me, it's made it a safer area. Less cops, making it a safer area. It also is combined with, they have the unarmed response out there, the street teams. I'm a big fan of them. I'm the reason why I helped get that expansion, the number of unarmed cops, not cops, they're just security ambassadors. And these are people who walk the street. Cops don't walk the street. They don't actually have a presence. They're just driving around in a car, jumping out at what they perceive as possibly a crime going on. Whereas the street teams, the unarmed presence, walks up and down, has relationships with people on the street, and the presence alone deters crime.
Yeah.
Presence alone. And so, yeah, I'm a big fan of them. I'd like to see them expanded and maybe a few less cops, because they have so much time on their hands to respond to all the Scientology stuff. Obviously, we're not hurting for police resources.
That's so true. Julie, thank you. William, thank you for being out there and helping to keep protesters safe.
I'm happy I have those protesters around. These are some of the best group of kids I've ever been around. I've been involved with activism for a long time. It's hard pressed to find a better activist than, say, Jessica. She's smart. She's funny. She's just brilliant. So yeah, I mean, I'm blessed to be around them.
That's so great. Skyrider 140 saying, we love pocket time. What's the best part of the chat for you? What's the most irritating?
I actually, so I used to never chat. I used to just, Chris used to say, why don't you talk to your chat? You got to stop abusing them like that. I'm like, because I'm usually, with cop watching, there's not time to actually chat. I got to keep my eyes open, looking left and right, and trying to figure out what the stop is about, and engaging with the cops. I don't really have time to answer questions. And even out there on Hollywood Boulevard doing the protesting, when you have 75 people around, it's hard to have time to just look at comments. I'm just always got to be on and focusing. But I've been doing more of it now, and I just think it's sort of therapeutic. It's actually, I enjoy all of it. Listen, I know I get a little ornery when people start telling me what I should do. Like, hey, William, get that cop's name. Like, I don't know what I'm doing with my cop watching. When they start telling me what I should do with handling the cops, that's probably the only thing that gets irritating. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly. You got it. You got it. But I love that. Yeah, pocket time. I learned about pocket time the other night. I'm like, oh. And then I thought, oh, it's cool though, because you can still hear and you're in the pocket. Gina is asking, when a protester gets surrounded by 12 cops, guns drawn, live in Denver, this happened to Jay, at what point is basically cult of Scientology swatting people?
They're doing that. They're doing that here. Every phone call coming in. Listen, a lot of the phone calls to the police that come in against us now, it's happening because people are watching. Some jerk at home is watching on the live stream and is just calling. It's just swatting. But this all started because the Church of Scientology was calling in stuff, claimed that I had a gun one night, claimed Solomon had a bomb, claimed we were going to burn down the building. They started this, and they can't claim separation because they also cited these phone calls in the Rolling Stone article, that terrible Rolling Stone article, as a reason why that we're violent, that they had to call the cops on us.
Yeah.
So they can't create separation now from all the cop calling. And again, I say it all the time, they're a tax-exempt organization. They don't pay any taxes. We pay for their tax. We pay for all these police resources that are being used. So they're just misusing it. At some point, I think taxpayers and politicians need to stand up. And the ones around here, I'm going to make sure they're going to have to answer. I'm going to find them. I'm going to search for the council members and Karen Bass. Karen Bass had nice things to say about Scientology at the opening of the facility over there back in 2012. Rick Caruso used it really hard against her when she was running for mayor. They ran a commercial against her where all they did was just play Karen Bass saying nice things about the Church of Scientology, and it was probably the most brutal ad. Listen, she won the election handedly, but she should have won it by 30, 40 points.
Yeah.
Just the way the nature of the city. It got closer because of that ad, because the Church of Scientology in LA is toxic.
Yeah.
So I'll use it against them. If they aren't going to call out some of this stuff, then I'm going to hold it accountable. I will just frame them as being sort of the Church of Scientology defenders and let them figure it out.
I love that. And they would be if you, I mean, why wouldn't you be able to say, oh, no, that's a cult, or no, we don't agree with these abuses. The
Yeah.
Michael Malloy show. Thank you. What do you think of Long Island audit?
I haven't seen his stuff in a while. I used to watch some. So I'm going to be honest. Like, I never call myself an auditor. I'm a cop watcher. I always felt that auditors generally like show up at a post office as a business, start filming. They say you can't film here, and then they'll call the cops. The cops come there, and then you kind of put the cops through it to teach the cops a lesson about the First Amendment and your right to film. That's not something I've ever really done. I'm not the type of person that tries to show up at a place to get cops to come. I usually go and try to find where the cops are at and get them to disperse.
Yeah.
And I'm usually trying to uh, record a situation to protect people and to file complaints against cops. That's my thing. Auditing has never really been my thing. With that having been said, Long Island Audit is very smart, very funny, and I like his style of auditing. I think he's really good. So I'm actually a pretty big fan of his.
Well, that's cool. I need to check that out. I don't know who that is. Laura has a question. William is definitely a very attractive and sorry, sexy looking fella. Yowzers. My mod Nancy puts up the questions.
I'm gonna have to hear my mom's mouth.
His mother's watching, people.
She's like, "Oh, just get over yourself, William."
Yeah. Yeah, and someone saying Lone Dinosaur says cop watching class. I would like to do that. Yeah, that makes sense. JES question. Has anyone ever asked the women at La Poubelle if they would have the same opinion if it was their daughter, mother, sister, etc. were drugged and ard? I did see protesters actually
Yeah,
ask that and say exactly that.
exactly that. Yeah, and you know what they do? They keep on walking in the door. It's like, oh,
Mm.
or some people walk in. Like last night, you had some lady who was covering her face trying to walk in. You know, when you get to a point where you have to cover your face,
Mhm.
that's pretty bad. But with that having been said, yeah, you got to understand, La Poubelle is not doing well right now. They are struggling. Yes, they get customers in there, but you start to see it's like the same 10 people every night.
Yeah.
And it's just the friends and family, the close people are close. You're not getting new traffic. You're not getting
Yeah.
walk-ins and stuff. You're
No.
not getting.
Can't
You
even
walk
see
past
clear.
the other restaurants on that street. I walk past, they're packed. La Poubelle is sort of sad and listen, the restaurant should at least be turning over twice a night and possibly three times. That
Yeah.
place is not turning over at all. They have nothing but like mostly empty seats.
Wow. Well, which is as it should be. I mean,
Yes.
that's where it's
Yeah.
headed. Liz, what do streets think about the PI and Solomon? Oh, we talked a little bit about that already. I'm a Gude girl from South Africa.
Yeah, I'm not particularly worried about that whole PI thing. Like I said, it could have been one of those things where one of the security guards or somebody from associated with the restaurant say they just happened to bump into him and he's like, "Oh yeah, let's spread the word and freak him out." If it consistently happens, then yeah. But listen, if you're actually doing research on somebody and you're spying on them, you don't go around telling them about it either.
Yeah, that's true. LL Jersey Girl for the La Poubelle alcoholic beverage permit hearing on March 12th. Feedback for us to email the city planner. Any points we should emphasize in our email why it should be denied?
Well, I mean, listen, there's a few things. First off, I think they have to have for them to have a permit, they have to have proper cameras. They have to have no smoking inside the establishment. They smoke inside that tent.
Yeah.
They have to. There's other things that they're violating. I'll put together some stuff on this, but I think, quite honestly, I think the DOA is putting together clips of people walking out of there drunk, attacking us.
Yeah.
And I think if we show that over and over again, listen, I think it's brilliant. I think DOA is just absolutely brilliant for that. I think that we can have a big impact on it, and I will show up there with my big mouth, and I will absolutely make sure that the points are heard and put pressure on them on all the different social media networks, whether it's like Twitter or YouTube or whatever else. We're going to pressure them, and I think we can. let's see how this plays out. I think it'll be interesting.
Oh, it will for sure. It's still like I'm ready to cancel my Netflix, my Hulu. I'm like, I'm not watching it at all. It has been so beautiful to witness all the exes join the protest and find new power. What has that been like for you? Tori Magoo adores you.
I mean, it's actually been really cool. I
Mhm.
listen. I think we're way ahead of schedule where I thought we would be. Seeing all the variety of people. Listen, I met Jane Doe one and Jane number three the other day.
Oh,
You
cool.
know,
Cool.
and to see them feel empowered to come out there, even if they're still a little scared, but to see them empowered after all these years of being harassed, I think that's beautiful. I think watching people come out there and talk about their experiences and their family, I think in some ways not just it's empowering for them, it's healing for them. And to see stuff like that, like the human experience, it means a lot to me. Watching these young kids learn about it, watching people like Chris's confident Chris and Chris without a Hellcat, and Sergio, and Jessica, and Solomon, all the other, so many,
Yeah.
Cam. I think it's just beautiful to watch. I love all of it. I look at all of them like family, and they've been highly effective. I've learned a lot from them. So
Mhm.
it's been amazing. Really has.
It looks amazing. It absolutely looks amazing. Not my name. Will, do you ever get the page to show photos of everyone supporting La Poubelle? I think that would help shame them all.
Yeah, no, I like I said, I bought that rapeshop.com, and I plan to put it up. I just want to run things past my lawyer.
Yeah.
Um, Listen, I'm going to do it. It's just a matter of, and I know I'll get sued for doing it. I know that. I'm not Stuff like that doesn't worry me. I just want to make sure that she has the capacity to help me handle this. Um, you know, Other than that, yeah, I have no problem. I have no problem getting sued. I don't care. Stuff like that. I love stuff like that.
Sandy McKenna, William's mom must be so proud. He has such a good soul. I agree. Gail Carney is asking, did you ever think about being an actor? You would be good in a cop show as a detective.
Oh my God. First off, no, I never thought about being an actor, and I definitely wouldn't be a cop.
Laura Estrada is asking, ask William if people in LA, I'm a native, mistake you for Tom Morello. You're a dead ringer, handsome warrior, William.
I've never heard that one before. I'm not sure who Tom Morello is.
Yeah, I'm not sure who that is either, actually. God, it sounds so familiar, though. I feel like it's just right there, right there. Gosh, it's going to make me crazy. I'm going to remember it at 2 a.m. One question too that I know I've gotten earlier, and you kind of touched on it a bit with just how it's been for you with being able to get to know the different people. And it's more of a comment that I get, and I've talked to some people about, is how cool it is to have these different groups coming together where you have the First Amendment auditor community, you have the ex-Scientology community, you have cop watching, you have never been in Scientology, came for the entertainment, but now I'm learning and I'm in it, all coming together. And from where I sit in the ex-Scientology community, because this is a question I often get, is with all of the documented and shared abuses, why is nothing really done? And at the end of the day, our elected officials aren't going to do anything where there's this minority of people saying that this happened. But now with so many other people joining this, becoming aware and becoming outreached about it, reaching out to their elected officials wherever they live and finding out where they stand on Scientology and their tax exempt status, that can actually create change because elected officials want to get elected. And if there are
Mhm.
enough of us, enough of these people never in Scientology who say, hey, we're not voting you in if you do not do something about this. This is what it's going to take for something to really change. That's what I think. What do you think?
Well, listen, I think that the group of people out there are highly diverse, different backgrounds, and probably very politically diverse, right? And we're always fighting Republicans, Democrats, liberal, conservative, leftist, right wing, whatever. We have all of that out there. All together, but we all agree on this one issue. And that's why I've always made sure to try to focus that let's not talk about other issues.
Yeah.
We're not going to agree on other issues. We all agree on this issue. And so let's keep it about that. When it comes to the politicians, I don't think there is a single politician in America, maybe a couple here and there, that would want to go on record saying, yes, the Church of Scientology their tax exempt status should be preserved.
Yeah.
I just don't think anybody's they're going to try to avoid answering that question, but nobody's going to actually defend their tax exempt status. So it's a matter of confronting them in a way and being persistent enough to get them on record. They are going to try to avoid answering the question. You have to ask them over and over and over and make sure that it is a political liability to not just support them keeping their tax exempt status, but being quiet about it. I always say this all the time. We talk about human trafficking all throughout the world. You hear it happening in these distant lands, third world country. Human trafficking is happening on Hollywood Boulevard in Hollywood. It's happening right here a few blocks away from the high school. Okay? And we're just allowing it to happen. We're not going to talk about it. It's time we talk about it. And it's time that the politicians take a stand. So listen, like I said, I'm going to find Hugo and Nithya, the ones that handle this district over here where all these centers are at. I'm going to get them on record. Let's see if they answer incorrectly, they are going to be brutalized by the electorate.
Yeah. Yep. It's a big year. It's a big year for that. That's why getting out there now.
Exactly.
Definitely. I've talked to some people locally recently about it and have gotten the conversation started with people, with my representatives, and speaking with even a lobbyist and asking, like, what would it take? Like, what is the most effective thing to do if we're doing this, grassroots, until somebody can hire a lobbyist to do it? That's what she said. You got to get enough people in each district, in each area, raising their voices about it. And like, we're not tolerating this. We're not.
Ask every politician. Listen, we ask politicians whether if they're running for county commissioner, what is your stance on abortion, right? Every politician in this country has to take a stance on that.
Yeah.
Now, you can ask a politician over here. I can ask the local dog catcher, if we had one, any elected position. I can ask them, hey, should the Church of Scientology keep their tax exempt status? And they're most likely going to say, well, listen, I have nothing to do with that. It's the IRS's decision. That's fine. It is the IRS's decision. I'm asking you, what is your personal stance on that? So we just can't let them just get away from not answering it. We have to treat it like any other issue where they have to take a stance, because it tells us a lot about their morals, right? This is a moral choice. And so I think it's important, if they are elected, no matter what position they're elected to, ask them about it. You can ask your mayor, you can ask your governor, like I said, a county commissioner or whoever, taxes. If they're elected, you ask them, and you know what? It doesn't have to be an adult. You can have high school kids asking them. Anybody can go ask them. If you see an elected person, ask them. Get them on record. Film it. If you film it, post it on TikTok, Twitter, or YouTube, whatever. If you don't want to post it, send it to us. We'll post it, right? So engage them that way. And we can't take no for an answer. Answer the question, Mr. or Mrs. Politician.
Yeah, I think that's very wise words. Chi Chicana, been watching Will since the robot roast. Love you both. Thank you.
That's important work, I'm telling
you. Monica, Mom Gude is from Norway. Where in Norway are their relatives from?
Well, I don't know what part of Norway. So she's Norwegian. Her mother, I believe, came from Norway or somewhere around. But I wouldn't know which area. What part of Norway? The Minnesota part of Norway.
Got a lot of Norwegians here in Minnesota. I was born and raised in Hawaii, and most of my life, I thought I was tall. I'm like 5. I say I'm 5'6", but I'm 5'5.5", and I thought I was tall. And then I came to the mainland and was like, oh my gosh, I am not tall. I was at my height of 5'5.5", was the one everybody wanted for basketball and volleyball. And then especially when I came to Minnesota and met the Norwegians, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I ever, at least for the first, 16 years of my life, I got to believe that I was tall.
Yeah, my mother's pretty tall. I think she's, I don't know what she is anymore, 5'9", 5'8", something like that.
Yeah. No, those Norwegians are tall. Auntie Harju, William, what keeps you going? It's a good
This
one.
is what I do. This is what I do. I'm always involved with some fight. If it's not this, I'm involved with something. I like taking on bullies. I like taking on institutions that people think that it's hopeless to fight against. That usually, you have large groups. I just feel like I have a lot of belief in myself. I feel like one person can make a difference, and if you do things the right way, listen. If you have facts on your side, you have social media, so you can get it out to the public, and you present it in such a way you can build narratives and bring people along. It might be a long fight, but you can actually put a dent, and that's what I like to do, and I like to encourage other people to do it. So
Yeah.
what keeps me going, this is what I do. If I'm not doing this, then I'd feel something's wrong with me.
I know the feeling. I get that sometime. Like, you're just consuming so much Scientology content and all that and doing the live streams every day and sometimes, two a day, sometimes three a day. And I'm like, I like doing it. I like
Yeah.
I
If
have
you
waited 3 generations of my family to do this, okay? I would
Yeah.
do it for $5 and a Happy Meal. The fact that I can actually make a living doing it too is just icing on the cake. And you know who's gonna hate that more than anybody? Scientology.
Yes. Yes.
They hate it so much. Oh, I don't think that's ever gonna get old. I just really don't think I'm ever gonna get over that. Jeanette, we did talk a little bit about this. Will there be Gude merch? See, I'm telling you,
I will take care of it. I've been saying this for weeks though. I will finally do it, I promise you.
yeah, people want it. They want to know. Mina's asking what's happening with Josiah.
Um he has a court date on the 5th.
The 5th of
Um
March.
yeah, so it was the dog guy pressed charges against him, claimed that he had threatened him with a knife or had been threatening him for weeks. Okay, I mean, they're gonna play that game. It's a lie. What I do know is that the dog guy, he threatened me and his dog bit me. And I know that he personally threatened SB Spanglish with an illegal baton and brandished that illegal baton and made criminal threats. And I sent that video to the chief. And on New Year's Day, he sent me an email back and he said, yes, that is a crime. But there hasn't been a crime report taken. They refused to take a crime report at the scene. They
Yeah.
refused to take a PPA at the scene. And when SB Spanglish went to the station a couple of days later, they refused to take the crime report again. We have a new chief. I've been sitting back on this, right? I was thinking Michael Moore is leaving as LAPD police chief. I'm not going to start submitting stuff to him on his last 3 weeks so he could just bury it. So
Yeah.
let the new chief come in and hold him responsible. So they're about to start getting hit with a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. That's great. I love that. Lara FM. Hey, girl. Rage
Oh,
Against the Machine, bass player, guitar player. I'm not getting the reference, Lara, but Rage Against the Machine, bass player, guitar player. Was that somebody who maybe was at La Poubelle? You got to tell me more, Lara. Tell me more.
I don't know what that means.
Me neither. Me neither. I thought it was code. Maybe you understood. Chrissy Newton's asking, how come the awning hasn't come down at La Poupcan?
Listen, I question whether that awning is legal. I just haven't had the chance to actually look into it. I was hoping somebody else would, but I want to see if it's legal. They have the al fresco dining, but al fresco dining area has to be used for al fresco dining. They use it to smoke cigarettes, so it's
Yeah.
obviously not a proper use.
Yeah, and they're not supposed to do that. That's the thing. They're so blatant about it. The other thing I've been wondering is why do so many people smoke who go to La Poubelle? Or is this an LA thing? I've never
No, it's not. We talk about this all the time. So LA is a place where people just don't really smoke out here a whole lot. It's not a thing. But everybody that goes to La Poubelle smokes cigarettes. Somebody said last night maybe just a French thing.
Maybe
So I don't know.
European.
Well, listen, I think they're all these people. They're trying to put on. Everybody goes into La Poubelle has a certain look to them. Like you see people walking down the street like, oh yeah, they're definitely going to La Poubelle. They have the same hairstyle, the same clothing.
Very pale.
And yeah, so maybe smoking is like their accessory.
I wonder. It could be. It's just weird. I thought at first maybe it's because some of them are Scientologists because there's a lot of Scientologists, not as much as before, but who still smoke and Sea Organization members because L. Ron Hubbard said smoking doesn't give you cancer. You get cancer because you don't smoke enough.
He said that.
He did. He did. And people believed it. They totally did. He did. I'm telling you, it's crazy. Just when you think it's crazy, it gets crazier. Bell Notes is asking Streets, what do you think about the receipt of children in Scientology? I think that was a video. The receipt of children in Scientology. Was that a video, or are you referring to the scroll? We don't really know, so we can't really
I
can't.
thought the scroll was very emotional and moving.
Yeah, that got me. That was just it. It's funny when I'm going through sometimes and I'm grabbing the content, or people are sending me links and timestamps and clips, and I'm putting my show together and I'm going through and I'm looking at it and everything's fine. And some things that I know are like, okay, that might be a little emotional. I'm going to move it towards the end. And then it just, when I'm talking about it, I think with people, then it just hits me. It's like I get this delayed reaction. And after that one, I lost it. It was so impactful to see my name, to see my daughter's name on it. Like, I know these things. I know my daughter has spoken out against Scientology, and my sister, but it just, I don't know, there was something so impactful about seeing it there in Los Angeles. I thought Liz Gale did that, and I thought it was brilliant. And I know she's working on doing something like that unfortunately is going to be a longer list, but at a certain point it will not be getting longer.
Yeah, very soon.
Yeah, very soon. Yes, exactly. All right. Well, we are going to wrap up, because even though I could spend the entire evening talking to you and we could definitely keep taking questions, we'll leave the people wanting more. And I'm hoping that we can do this again, because every time stuff happens and as things go on, I have so many questions, but now I know how to track you down.
Yeah, let me anytime. Literally anytime.
Yeah, I would absolutely love that. So, thank you. I just can't thank you enough for being here and answering all these questions. I think it was a great time. And I wanted to say, because normally I would be acknowledging a bunch of, I lost my spot, a bunch of members that have joined. But we had so many questions and stuff. But those of you who joined the membership, thank you so much. Thank you so much for doing so. There's going to be some fun stuff coming there. But just hold on for a minute, William. We'll say goodbye. Everybody else, thank you for being here. Thank you for hitting that like button. And remember, subscribe, because it'll piss off Scientology.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I hope you guys all have the most amazing cult-free evening.